Today on the show, we're going to discuss a number of issues that Nicole, my guest, has gone through. And if you're struggling, if you're going through some hard times and difficulties in life, there's a text number I'll give you that you can reach out to. It's a 24-hour number that may help you. They have people on staff who will talk to you and help you through these times you're facing of uncertainty and challenges. My goal is always to encourage people, encourage someone somewhere.
To see ourselves in each other, to find compassion and understanding and gratitude and grace. People need empathy. Families need empathy. Communities need empathy. At Crisis Text Line, we're powered by 10,000 people who are ready to show you empathy whenever you're feeling alone, who are there to see you and hear you and validate you and remind you that the world needs you.
Text empathy to 741-741. Before we get the show going, my very first song I'm playing is by Showdown. What's country all about?
You don't need to drive no four-wheel drive or wear no cowboy hats. Don't matter if you dropped a 10-point buck, ain't nothing to do with that. Don't care if you were born down south or tied with a backwoods swings. Don't matter if you like to chew red man, nah, I don't mean a thing. Sit on back, you might learn a thing or two. It's about family, it's about friends, and doing what's right like the good book says. It's about God, it's about faith, and bringing up the kids like the way he's raised. In the end, there ain't no doubt, and that's what country is all about. That's what country's all about. You don't need to grow up baling hay or wake when a rooster crows. Don't matter if you've ate frog legs or partied on an old dirt road. Don't need to have holes in your jeans or know how to plow a field. Don't need to fish with an old cane pole, you just gotta keep it real. Sit on back, you might learn a thing or two. It's about family, it's about friends, and doing what's right like the good book says. It's about God, it's about faith, and bringing up the kids like the way he's raised. In the end, there ain't no doubt, that's what country's all about. You see Grandpa picking on his banjo as you're pulling up the drive. The kids all take off running, they want Grandma's apple pie. You gather around the table and you bow your heads in prayer. You hold each other's hands as you thank the man upstairs. And now you know what country's all about. It's about family, it's about friends, and doing what's right like the good book says. It's about God, it's about faith, and bringing up the kids like the way he's raised. In the end, there ain't no doubt, country's all about. That's what country's all about. That's what country's all about. That's what country's all about. Now you know what country's all about.
Hello, and welcome to Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. I'm your host, Jody Sheffield. The concept of this podcast has always been to reach out to people from all walks of life and to share their story. Their story could be about encouragement or inspiration or times when they were going through those hard and difficult chapters, challenging chapters in their life. And some folks took a while to get through those dark tunnels they had faced. I came across my guest today on TikTok and I began to read about and learn about her incredible story. She has survived an opiate addiction. She used drugs often after a knee injury, and she's had several overdoses in her accounts of her life. She's gone through domestic abuse. She's a 3-time convicted felon. And she has faced some of the hardest adversities. But getting through those has made her incredible stronger. She's written a book called My Path to Redemption. She's now an inspiration to so many out there. It's completely done a 180 in her life. I'm so excited to hear her story and share more about encouragement about her life she has received, and I hope and pray that we can encourage someone out there today. She shares the situations she has gone through and faced. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is Nicole today, also known on TikTok as Nicole Victorious One, here on Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast, where it's always about encouraging others. Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad, yourself?
I'm okay. I'm just going to say okay.
Oh, okay is good. Welcome to Chit and Chat, the encouraging one other podcast. My guest today is Nicole Chatagnier, correct?
That is the best that I've heard of the last.
I
You
practiced
did
it
it good.
times.
You wouldn't believe how they say it. You did good.
I practiced a few times on the way home today. I'm like, I'm going to get this right the first time. So here we are. Thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on today. I follow you on TikTok, obviously, and you just have an incredible story. And I'm just my podcast is about encouraging others, and you are doing just that. And so thank you for the time today.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to tell my story. And I think the important part of my testimony and all of our testimonies is the fact that we did beat it, and we encourage others, because I felt lost when I was in addiction. I felt completely lost, and I hope that I can help somebody else realize that you can definitely step out of it and not only have a good life, have a great life.
My goal has always been encourage someone somewhere, and I write that down. I use 1 Thessalonians 5:11, encourage one another and lift each other up. So let's start from the beginning. A little bit about your younger years, high school, college. What was life for you growing up? Just
you weren't in trouble or anything, were you?
I absolutely was not. I my childhood pretty much looks like the all American childhood. I'm an only child. I think it's definitely fair to say that I was privileged and so spoiled. Straight A student, never sent to the principal's office, but I ended up going to prison. That's fun. And I did not have the self esteem that I needed when I was younger. And I figured that out way too late.
Mm.
But even though I was the popular girl in high school and all of those things, I just didn't have the self esteem that I needed to overcome things. I was even though like I was homecoming court and favorite, Miss Southwood, all those things, I felt like I would get booed or I wasn't pretty enough or I wasn't good enough. And it took me a long time to figure out why.
Where were you born and raised? And tell us a little bit about your the area you grew up at.
I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana,
Okay.
and I am still in Louisiana, but I'm in Alexandria with my husband now.
I was born in
Um,
Arkansas, so we were neighbors at one time, a
we
long time
were,
ago.
we're in Arkansas.
Just south of Little Rock, Camden, Arkansas. I was born and raised. I'm in Washington State now, but yeah, I miss being down south for sure. Go ahead, continue, please.
Uh, but I did everything right. You know, I had good grades and I had a full scholarship to college. I had the same boyfriend from the time I was 14 till the time I was 20. And I don't really feel like my childhood was very realistic because when I got out into the real world, I had absolutely no coping mechanisms, even though I had a happy childhood
Mm,
and I had great parents. My father and I are super close, and he always taught me to be beautiful, but think like a man. He's a survivalist, and so even though I'm super feminine, I'm camping. I backpacked across Alaska
mm,
after my senior year of high school with him, and he laid that foundation for me. Both of my parents did. Um, that made me feel loved. So I think it helped me in my recovery because I had the proper foundation. And I like to tell my story because a lot of people don't realize that what happened to me can happen to anybody.
mm-hmm,
Nobody saw this coming. If somebody in 1997 would have asked about Nicole Pearson, they would have thought that I was going to be successful and, have a great life,
mm-hmm.
and that's for a while, that is definitely not the case.
And this is where you and our story just kind of goes different directions. I graduated high school, joined the Navy, and your life took a different turn. Tell us about around 2000 where you slowly took a downward spiral in your life.
It absolutely did. It was 2000 and I was pregnant with my oldest son. I had left the man that I got pregnant with. I had just gotten out of a long relationship and I didn't really love the guy. And I'm like, I'm not saying you can't be a part of the child's life, but I don't want to be with you. And I have not seen that dude since.
Mm,
So I'm working two jobs. And it was the first time in my life that I was proud of myself because even though I was in a bad situation, I was gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna take care of myself. And I'm working it out back steakhouse, 7 months pregnant, and the floor is wet. I slip and fall. And when my kneecap goes completely around to the back of my leg, when I
uh,
hit the ground, it breaks into three pieces and it cuts the inside of my leg all up.
mm,
And I'm in a bind. It changed my life, and I had a decision to make. The doctors were like, if we can go ahead and do surgery and fix your leg, but your son, his lungs are not fully developed, so there's a chance you could go into labor and something could go wrong with him.
mm,
And I did not have to think about that. I was like, leave my leg alone. If I'm going to be crippled, I'm going to be crippled. And you're talking, 19 or 2000 me, still, I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never done drugs. I was like goody two shoes. So I had no idea what was coming. This is the beginning of the opioid crisis.
mm.
I was not prepared.
And so with your knee injury, you gave birth to your son, began getting on some drugs to help with the pain, but eventually you just kind of kept taking those, correct?
I did. I actually didn't even take them as prescribed
Mm,
in the beginning because, well, I was motivated. I was in physical therapy, and I'll be honest, I didn't see it as a drug at all because a doctor was prescribing it. I thought it was safe, and I just wasn't taking it. It said as needed.
hmm.
So I'm not, and I'm prescribed a high dose now. They're giving me OC80s and Perk 10s, Xanax, Soma, Ambien. You name it, I had it. They sent me home on a Dilaudid pump after my first surgery.
Mm.
I had a total, it was somewhere between 9 and 12 operations
Wow.
um, before they amputated it. They amputated my patella when I was 23 years old, and it's called a patelectomy. And I haven't really met anybody else that's had that. A lot of people are like, they did what? That they completely surgically removed the kneecap. Me and my son learned to walk together.
Mm.
Um, my little boy, he's a grown man now. I have two little boys, but he was everything. And I was extremely empathetic my whole entire life. I still am. I never made fun of anybody. I always took up for everybody. And when my little boy was 2 years old, his hair started to fall out. He has a disease called alopecia universalis.
Mm.
And with every strand and eyelash that came out, I got mad. I got mad at God. It was like, I've never made fun of anybody. I took up for everybody. Why?
Well,
Why is
yeah, exactly. You know,
why does
this is
my kid have to be
yep.
different? Why, right? Like, why is my kid going to be the one getting made fun of?
Mom mode
E-
comes into play. You're like, this is my kid. You know.
Exactly. And I was super mad. And that it just, I learned my lesson on getting mad. Had I had the maturity and the wisdom that I have today, I would have realized that Colby was supposed to teach me
Mm.
um, what it meant to be strong. And if I could go back and change things, I wouldn't have let his condition crush me because at the end of the day, it was his condition.
Mm.
But he's my child, and I couldn't deal with it. People would ask us cruel questions. They would walk up to us like right in front of him and I'd say, "Well, when is he going to die?" Because they thought he had cancer.
Oh wow.
And it's like, well, if he was dying, you just said that in front of a 2-year-old. Like, why would you do that?
That did that keep your kind of defensive walls up and just you just want to
Yes,
punch someone in the
I
face?
I did. I did at Six Flags. I got handcuffed.
Mm.
Uh, that was before I had any felonies. I was angry and I was very defensive. And Colby has a personality like me. We're both funny and outgoing. And I was a medical esthetician. And the irony there is that along with that comes waxing. So people are paying me to pull their hair out. My kid can't even grow any hair.
Mm.
And Colby's joke would be like, "Oh, well, my mom waxed my hair off." And he was little bitty, barely could talk. He'd like, "My mom's an esthetician. She waxed my hair off." And, he had a good attitude, but I didn't. And we were in Walmart one day and a family was like the whole family was looking and pointing and laughing. And I had it. And it was Christmas time and there was a big castle made out of Oreo cookies. And I said, "Colby, hold my purse." And I crashed into the cookies. And I was like, "Now y'all got something to, stare at, bleep, to bleep, bleep, bleep."
Hmm.
And caused a big scene. And I went home and I took a handful of Percocets um, because I didn't want to feel anything.
Mm. Is that
And that was the first time I abused it.
and did that just the kind of downward spiral with drugs
it
really took over your life?
a- Actually, I was a functioning addict for a long time.
Mm.
I'm going to give it about 10 years. I was
So,
working on movie sets in Shreveport.
so define a
Um,
functioning addict. A friend of my nephew was on drugs for a while. He got back on the straight and narrow. Did a lot of jail time. But what does a functioning addict mean for us folks who've I've never done a drug in my life. I would have no idea. But for those out there who may be the same way you're at, and what does that mean for to do?
functioning addict. I was working. I had a great job. At the time, it's early 2000s. I'm making a couple $1,000s a week. I am successful, and nobody has a clue that I am taking around 40 Percocets a day. You couldn't tell. Like, nobody had a clue. They thought I was super mom. They thought I was this independent woman. And I am eating 10 at a time to keep from getting sick.
Mm.
And I mean, I was like an elephant. Like, I was just consuming so much and nobody had a clue. And to answer your question about a functioning addict, I remember when I would run out of pills, my family thought I was on something from because I was out of it.
Okay.
Like, it made me normal. Without it, I was like just a mess. And my mom knew that I had a Xanax prescription. I mean, they knew about all my prescriptions, but if I didn't have pain meds, um, like my mom would be like, Nicole, did you take the Xanax? Like, no, like I'm out of everything. And I wouldn't tell them that, but it, it just made me function, and nobody had a clue. And when I finally did admit how much I was taking, it was almost like I couldn't get anybody to believe me.
Mm. Because your body had built up a immune, it just kind of made you
The
be normal.
tolerance build, right? The tolerance builds. In fact, the first time I got dope sick, I didn't even know that I was dope sick. I don't think people realize that.
Mm.
My pills were at the pharmacy, and I laid in bed for a day or two, and I thought I had the flu, and it it just didn't even dawn on me that my body was dependent on something. Of all people, my mom noticed it.
Mm.
Uh, I went and got my prescription and taken it, and within 30 minutes, I was fine.
Wow.
And she noticed it, and I was in denial. I just was like, nah, like that's crazy. And I had about 13 more years to go to ruin everything. So
You went to you went to, I'm not sure what order this is. You might have to kind of get me back on the certain here a little bit. Abusive relationships. You OD'd several times. You had jail time. I'm not sure what order. Kind of share about the order of that. How your life just got worse and worse and worse.
this is how it goes. I'm hooked on pills, and like I said, I was a functioning addict, and there was a gentleman. Well, I'm not going to say gentleman. There was a man that I had known really my whole life, and he had done 9 years for several armed robberies that got dropped to simple robbery, and he had just gotten out, and I just decided, hey, like I want to be with this person, and I had him meet me on the roof of the boat, the casinos in Shreveport, to bring me some pills. And I remember, I can tell you what he was wearing walking towards my vehicle. And I remember knowing in that instant that I was about to make a huge mistake. In fact, my husband took a picture of me standing in that same exact spot about 2 years ago because my life changes.
Mm.
Um, I tell people that the devil doesn't show up in your life like a scary monster. He shows up like everything you think you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I was instantly attracted to him. Uh, Instantly wanted it. Was thought about, oh, let's Bonnie and Clyde it. Thank God I finally got to my Johnny and June. Thank God. But the idea of Bonnie and Clyde was like successful. Like it sounded fun to me because I was bored. I had done everything right. I was a straight A student. I've got this great job, and I don't know. It was like this reckless. The drugs brought this reckless out of me, and we get together. We marry super fast. We get pregnant super fast. I managed to stay off pills while I was pregnant with my son. I had gotten on Subutex, weaned off, but I was miserable. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. And I just wanted to get high. And this is why. At 5 months pregnant, he came home and beat the snot out of me for
Mm.
the first time, and that was a scary moment for me. Um, I once again I'm on the ground trying to protect my unborn child, and it's almost like a part of you dies, And I just remembered thinking, like, how did I get here? And like, I didn't think I deserved it. I didn't think I did anything wrong. I thought that he loved me so much he had to do that. Why my thought process went to that, I don't have an answer for you.
Mm.
I know there's other victims of domestic violence that have felt the same way, but it made me want to help him. Like, I pitied him, even though he was beating me.
How long did that relationship last?
Legally, we were married for 10 years. He only stayed on the street though for 2.
Mm.
And so it was a rough 2 years. He didn't make the birth of our son. Uh, he had got hemmed up on a parole violation, and they had him in for like 90 days. And, I gave birth alone for the second time. That was scary. At, by then, my son was 11, my oldest, and he was with me. He helped take care of me and the baby, and I'm ashamed to say that. But he was kind of like my rock, and that was wrong. But the worst part of it is the abuse that he had to witness.
Mm-hmm.
My ex-husband never ever laid his hands on my kids. In fact, he would say, "I'll make them hate you. I'll make them choose me," and I believe that. There's something wrong. There was something wrong with me between the drugs and the no self-esteem and the no self-worth. I believe that.
Mm.
And he was a needle user. He's 12, 13 time convicted felon. And on my 33rd or 34th birthday, he came in and was like, "We're shooting up." And I was scared of it, but I'm not going to blame him because technically there wasn't a gun to my head. But when you're in an abusive situation, I thought I couldn't live without him or the drugs. And so I did it, and I regret it, and I take accountability for it. But I also know I didn't get where I got by myself.
How hard is it to? I'm sure you've talked to people who have been in abusive relationships. How hard is it to walk away? I mean, just you get to that point where you want to, but you can't because you feel so dependent on ABC.
Right. It's I'll be honest with you. And my husband is my best friend. I've said this in front of him many times. It's the hardest thing that I ever did.
Mm.
I thought he was the love of my life, and um you couldn't make me believe anything else. And even though it was violent and ugly, I thought that I thought he was everything, and it took me going to prison to get the strength, and I'll get to that part. Um I After I started shooting up, everybody knows that's downhill, right? And I'm injecting pills. Not like I'm breaking everything down, and I'm not actually doing street drugs. I don't think people understand that that is a thing. Um you can break that down and use it, and that's what I was doing, and it's not meant for your veins. It causes bad issues.
Mm.
So he in April of 2013, um he gives me the beating of my life and leaves and goes and robs a Waffle House. And I don't know what his game plan was. Like, where does that go? Like, what were you doing? I still don't know the whole story to that. But he got 6 years flat. And I should have realized that that was God removing him from my life and other people's prayers being answered. But I couldn't. I was too sick in the head, and I was devastated, and I mourned him. But and I was waiting it out, and it worked out beautifully, the way God worked it out for me. But I ended up like I wasn't going to divorce him. He cheated on me all the time when he was out on the street, obviously. And the way I saw it, I'm making excuses like, well, he's locked up, I'm just going to get a boyfriend. I had mentioned my father earlier, and I couldn't sell myself. Like, I don't judge other women that have made that call. It just wasn't for me. Like, I was going to be a criminal and not do that. So I hook up with this other guy. And he's a needle user like I am, and he's not abusive at all, but he does have some mental issues. And we're just out there, and my parents come in and they take my children, and because they wanted me to go to rehab. And at that point,
Just fight for custody and just take him, and you don't have him anymore.
right, I signed custody over because I thought I could rehab, but the idea of it is I can't go to rehab and get off these drugs. I'm not going to survive detox. When you're physically dependent on something, you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I took off with my kids, and they did have to come find me. And a police officer did come to the hotel room where I was hiding, and take my children. Um,
At that moment, did it hit you at all, or were you still so high on drugs you didn't really phase you very much?
yes, it hit me. I will never forget uh, what it felt like when the police officer removed my 2-year old
Mm.
from me. It is something that, even though it's my own fault, has traumatized me on a severe level. But it's my own fault, and I take accountability for that. Collins is almost 13, and we have a beautiful relationship now. And he has no recollection of the junkie that I was, or the violence. It was, and I'm thankful for that. He
Mm-hmm.
only knows me as his mom, and sober and powerhouse, and he's proud of me.
That's
I've been sober almost 8 years.
that's awesome.
So, but yes, it affected me greatly. And instead of like, especially if somebody's listening, if you're the parent of an addict, um, when you can't force an addict into recovery. Instead of the way I think now, like, obviously they removed my children. Obviously I should get clean. But my addicted brain didn't think that. It was like, now I just don't have a reason to really live. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to be awake. And that's when my overdoses start. The last one, well, two of them were very serious. Each 3.5 minutes, I had flatlined. Um, the vent, the whole thing. And to show you how deranged I was, I woke up in ICU on a vent. Then they had to pull it out, and to avoid going to the mental unit, I took off out of LSU hospital, the hospital in Shreveport, ran across Kings Highway in nothing but hospital gown, barefoot, because I needed to get out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was scared, and I had literally been dead 3 or 4 days before.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like I was so well put together growing up, and now I'm this completely unhinged person, and I'm starting to break out in MRSA, and it's kind of starting to take everything over. At one point, they had made arrangements to remove my left breast, uh, and I got lucky. They didn't have to do the partial mastectomy, but I'm scarred up pretty bad, and I'm thankful for all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally hit rock bottom. And my first felony I got with my ex husband. My second felony is pharmaceutical fraud, and I'm an in-state fugitive. Like, I'm on the run. They're looking for me, especially with the fact that I'm still married to my ex husband at the time. He was a well-known criminal, and they were looking for me. And I'm on the run, and I'm just exhausted, and I'm sick. At this point, I go almost 4 years without seeing my kids,
Wow.
and it was devastating, and my parents as well. And finally, on December 26th of 2016, I've had it. I had thrown my drugs away 3 days before. I wanted to get my life together. I could feel that I was about to die, and I screamed out to God. I was like, you know what? If you're up there, I'm gonna need you to show up. I'm gonna need you to do something. I need you to save my life because I don't want to die like this. I was completely covered in MRSA. I didn't even look human. I looked like a rotting corpse, and I'm screaming on my knees in complete submission for God to save me. And in that moment, my friend comes running down the hall because I gone to her house, and she's like, Nicole, the house is surrounded.
Mm.
And I'm like, done. I heard you, God. Like, I'm doing this. Like,
Time to
done. Like it
a
was this
little bit.
feeling, right? It was this feeling of relief, utter relief. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you've been on the run and you're an in-state fugitive and you're hooked on drugs and you've got nowhere else to go, and you scream out in complete horror for help and you get answered. I didn't care that it came in the form of all those police cards. I didn't
God's
care.
like, I'll answer. Boom.
Yeah, God answered me, and I was like, okay, man, like this is what's up. And I was scared, but I was relieved. And it
Which
was humiliating.
which is kind of funny because when people pray, they want God to heal them or kind of help them, but not boom a house surrounded by the popo. I mean,
Right. Right. It's not what you're expecting. And that's the thing, I tell people, like, I talk to Jesus like he's my best friend. And it works for me. But I wasn't expecting the cops to show up. But like I said, it was relief. And, you know, a lot of work comes into sobriety. God didn't make a Wish Foundation. Like, it don't work like that. You've got to really face your demons and really put in the work. And he's going to show up. But 3 days after my arrest, I went into full blown kidney failure. And but it was so humiliating going through the arrest process. My hair was long past my butt and matted. I hadn't shaved. I had over 70 lesions of
mm,
infection.
mm,
And my teeth, I hadn't even had a cavity until my 30, like 29, 30. And at this point, I'm 36, 37. Half of my teeth are gone. My ex husband had broken half of them. The drugs had taken the rest. I looked like a monster. And coming to terms with that in lockup, going through detox is it's not traumatizing. I almost found it beautiful that I had to learn to love myself there in that spot. And during the withdrawal, I had talked to God the whole time, and I remembered thinking, I'm going to thank him for this. I'm going to thank him because I need to feel this. I need to feel how dependent I am on this. I need to understand what I've done to myself and my children.
mm.
And the only way to get through this is to get through this. And I might be shackled to a bed, but God knows that's what I need.
Yep.
And so I'm going to praise him through this. And I live my life like that now. I'm going through a lot right now, and I'll get into that later. But I live like that. And I remember making this list in my head of the things that I wanted, you know, and it's blown my mind that what has been given back to me is three times what I asked for.
Mm. Yeah,
My fam,
and
go
you're
ahead.
in jail for 5 years. Not 30 days or 60 days or a week.
I I
Five.
was sentenced to 5. I did 2,
Okay.
because it wasn't violent. But yeah, 2 years, and that's enough for me.
As
I,
you begin your process of detoxing, what's the process of detoxing? I've heard about it. My nephew's gone through a little bit. I'm sure it's different ways to different people. But how did you help you, or as you came down off the high of the drugs?
um, well, it's not pretty. Um, I wanted. There's no other way to say this. I wanted to completely cut my skin off.
Mm,
My skin hurt. I couldn't control my stomach at all, either way. At one point, the nurses were having to come in and clean the vomit off of me. It's a physical withdrawal. And then not only is it physical, but you are having to deal with every emotion that you have covered up for however long you've been covering up. Like I was laying there withdrawing, thinking about my aunt that had died, and she had been gone for 3 or 4 years, and I'm just now dealing with it. I'm thinking about my son's hair loss. I'm thinking about the fact that my now 6-year-old doesn't even know who I am. I'm thinking about all the beatings. I'm thinking about all these things, and I'm physically sick. But at the same time, I could feel God with me, and I felt safe. And I know that sounds crazy, but for the first time in my life, I was having to be accountable to something,
mhm.
and that's what I did.
And your parents became a huge part of your recovery as the getting off the drugs, and share a little about that, and we'll get back to your book a little bit as well, and just kind of the process and how long it took you to slowly, day after day, hour after hour, turn your life around.
Um, I mean, my dad showed up immediately. I was in the hospital at first during lockup because of my health. And, as soon as I hit GPOP, the other just general population, the other inmates made fun of me because they think I've got AIDS. I went from being the most popular girl to being a freak show. And, I remember my dad showing up, and he was on oxygen. My dad has a lung condition, and that was the first time I had seen it. And I remember being so mortified that I was standing there in that jumpsuit. But my dad was like, Nicole, we're finna use this to, you can do this. I believe in you. I've always believed in you. My father plays a huge role in who I am today. My mother and I have a toxic relationship, but I mean, I love her. I don't mean that any type of way. She holds a little longer grudges. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
So it took her a little bit longer. But just my dad showing up was enough for me to start dealing with things. And in prison, I started working on myself. Like, Nicole, why don't you have a self-esteem? Why did you let yourself get beat up? Like, why do you have 3 felonies? My final charge was simple burglary, and technically I did not do that. I knew about it and I spent the money, but I didn't do the crime. But that is the consequences
Hmm.
of hanging out with people and being on drugs. Like, I'm
Yep.
no victim to that.
Wrong place,
Um,
time doesn't matter.
yeah, exactly. Like, I brought that on myself, and I knew that. Um, and so I just started working on myself, and there's drugs all in the system. I immediately, like, I was not doing it. Um, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to get better because to me it didn't make sense. Like, I'm not going to be locked up in the situation and get in more trouble and lose good time. Like, I've been sentenced to 5 years. I don't want to do all of this five. I want to get out as soon as possible.
Hmm.
And I took the steps. I was going to church. Every time there was a church service, I was going. I was in my Bible. I was, writing in a journal. I was doing those things. And for a while, for a little tiny bit, I remember being scared of release, thinking, like, don't let me out of here until I'm ready, because I didn't want to mess up.
Right.
And I only should have done 9 months on the five, but I did the two because DOC didn't turn in my credits. But that was a God thing too. Um, and this is kind of where my story changes as far as recovery goes. Where the good things that I've done. My family had made arrangements. They had met a lady, or my aunt had met a lady in Mississippi, of all things, by the name of Gloria Chatagnier. And she's like, hey, there's a place in Alexandria that she can go to, that might help her. It's a women's shelter. And here it is. I'm in prison, right? So when I call home and they tell me I can't come home, that I've got to go 2 hours from home to a women's shelter, I'm like, are you serious right now? But when this is, I work with addicts in recovery. When you're serious about change, you got to be accountable in the beginning, right? I
Yep.
wanted my family back, right?
Hmm.
I'd ask God to show up in my life and do something great, right? So I got to get self out of the way. I
Yep.
got to trust the process.
Yep. Let him work.
Right. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I remember going back on my bunk and I'm like, this is so messed up. I do not want to go to this town. And of all things, when I released, I met Gloria, and she is an amazing woman. She's my mother in law.
Mm.
Right 2 days after release, I got baptized. She was in the water with me.
That's awesome.
And it is, so, yeah, it's awesome. And 2 or 3 days after that, I met her son. And his smile just knocked me out. And I remember thinking, I do not have time. I don't need a man in my life right now. Like, I don't want this man in my life. And It was hard because like I loved Gloria so much, and she did not introduce us to be together. She was like, "This is my friend." So now I've got this situation where like I'm falling in love with her son, and she's so powerful in my life, and I want to make her proud. And we marry fast, because we wanted to do it right. And the fact that God had put her in my life, and then I met my husband. It was this incredible process, and we got married, and my husband has almost as much clean time as me. I pick on him. I'm like a couple months ahead of him, but he was a meth addict. And so here it is. We're two addicts together, right? And no, that's a bad idea, right? And
Yep.
we're gonna get married, and that's the one thing that's great about his parents is like so many parents don't completely wipe the slate with the whole addiction thing, and his parents have. Like it never comes up, and that's a great thing. But we formed this bond, and we marry, and we open up. My husband had this idea for a sober living, and he wanted to help addicts. He's a published author. He helped me write my book, and that's what we do. Like people see me on media, and they read my book and things like that, and they see the smiling face. But my husband's in the streets, like working hands on with people, and people talk about recovery and staying sober, and I use the term recovered because I believe in deliverance. I put the work in for that, and God has blessed me for that. And the last 2 years has been difficult. I've got rheumatoid arthritis, and we've had to deal with a lot that affects your life. There's days I can't walk across the room, and I've had to stay sober through this. And like it's been a lot, but I never wanted to relapse. I have to use that same thing, that girl that praised God in prison praises him now on my worst days,
Yep.
and it just worked out.
You
And
praise him in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And so, what year was that where you felt a turnaround in your life that you're getting back on the straight and narrow? Was that 5 years later?
well, I got arrested in 2016, and I started right then. I felt the shift the night I got arrested.
Mm,
But then 2 years later, I hit the streets, and I'm in a women's shelter, and then I meet my husband. But it was gradual. It wasn't overnight for me. When my husband and I first got married, I did not realize that my PTSD was as bad as it was. My husband is a very passionate man. He's very loud. He's sitting right here, and I would like he's talking about Jesus and yelling, and I'm going in a hole, just because I got trauma, and he was so patient with me. And I think one of the favorite things about my story is it wasn't overnight; it was gradual,
mm.
and I had to work on it every day, and that's how I got to the woman that you're talking to now. It wasn't just like a click, but when I got arrested was when the change started.
And I've been on the controversial app TikTok for a number of years, and people all who are for that. But I finally set my parameters for TikTok for encouraging, uplifting, positive videos. And I came across some of your videos and your story and your book, and I'm like, she is hilarious. You're so funny. You're always dancing, sharing positivity. Share about your book a little bit, and when that book idea really came to you. I didn't get it on paper to help people out there who are struggling, kind of what the lows you face, and how encouraging is that for you?
Um, it it is. I mean, it's definitely encouraged. My husband actually is the one that had told me that I needed to write a book, but I went viral on TikTok, for saying I went to prison. Like people didn't. They thought I was kidding.
Mm.
I
Not you,
guess it's like
not
Desperate
you.
Housewives goes to prison. I don't know. So like who knows? But somebody had brought it up about writing the book, and I wrote the book in like 3 or 4 days. My husband wrote his book first, and so he kept saying, why don't you write it down? So I did it in like I wrote for 3 or 4 days straight, and it happened that way. I hope that it gives I hope that it does encourage people, especially women in abusive situations. And, you know, with the work that Brandon and I do, with him being an ex meth addict and me being ex opiates, we kind of meet the full circle to where we can understand everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that we do the encouragement that we're hoping that that we do.
I'd love to get him on, down the road sometime. Let us share his story as well. But one
Oh,
thing I
he
really like about you, you're always celebrating other people's breaking free from their addictions. I see you like Susie 2 years or Becky 5 years.
yes.
That is so cool.
You know why I do that? I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. It's important, but I'd mentioned earlier that my husband's parents completely wiped the slate clean with his addiction, and so did my father. But sometimes my past will be thrown in my face in other areas, and I feel like, what if there's somebody out there that has no support or anything? If I make their day, then they'll feel loved. Because I think it's important when we overcome something, it should be celebrated. And addiction has a bad rap, and
Yep.
people do come out of it. And I love to celebrate other people, because that, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's, my platform is not about me. I'm the face of my platform, but it's not about me. It's about, hey, addiction can happen to anybody at any time, and we can beat it, and it deserves to be celebrated.
I mentioned your book a few times. I haven't asked you about the book. Actually, share about your book. What it's called. How can people find it as well?
It's Victorious: My Path to Redemption. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle or order it. I sometimes have personal copies. I only have about 6 or 7 now. If you contact me directly through the link in my bio on TikTok, I can mail it out. I do signed copies, but it's always on Amazon.
Along the way, since you have gotten better and you sharing positive encouragement, I always ask you what to share encouragement kind of at the end, and how can someone encourage others? Um, what are some words you could offer to encourage someone out there who has been through maybe a part of your story or a little bit of your story, or what words of wisdom or advice could you share with someone out there today?
If um if we're talking addiction, I would, when I was lost in addiction, I would get overwhelmed by getting clean. And I think it's important that if you're struggling with it and you're lost, that you shouldn't focus on the whole staircase. Just focus on that first step. Just one little tiny step might be enough to change your life. Like, don't look at the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Take it a step at a time, and you're going to be okay. And for the people, I love to try to imprint on people that haven't gone through what I've been through. As far as domestic violence goes, if you don't love yourself, you're gonna attract the unhealed version of you,
Mm.
and it's important that you learn to love yourself. I attracted an unhinged, unhealed, ugly version of me that nearly got me killed. But in the process of me rising out of those ashes and learning to love myself, God gave me somebody who completes me and loves me in my ugly. So learn to love yourself, and if you're stuck in addiction, don't get stuck on the whole picture. Just take it a little bit at a time.
Mm. How has faith helped you in that every day? We all have our ups and downs. We have bad days. We have good days. How has faith kind of kept you stronger every day?
Um I would be nowhere without Jesus.
Mm.
What I've overcome with my health over the last couple of years. Um it it takes me everywhere that I need to be. On my ugly days, I know he's with me. And on days that I don't feel like doing anything that you need to do, I have to tell myself, Jesus didn't feel like hanging on the cross, but yeah, he did to save me. So I got to do something right.
Before I wrapped up, I'd love to pray for you and your family today. Would you mind that?
I would love that.
Father God, thank you for this amazing opportunity you allowed Nicole and I to connect and kind of share her story. She is a beacon for so many people who've gone through the pits, gone through the valleys of life. Help her continue to be and her husband to be a beacon for men and women who have going through abusive relationships, drugs, jail time. Just comfort them and guide them, and let them just be a light for those who are struggling. I just been honored to have her on the show today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. And I gotta tell you this. I love the fact that you love Jesus and you're doing these podcasts. Props to you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And some interviews are very hard to prepare for, and yours are probably one of the top 5 or top 10 that I had to do. Really kind of, think about it and pray about it, and going, I haven't never dealt with anything you've gone through. And to me to kind of I write down every question, and I prayed yesterday about our time together today, and just want to be, transparent for everybody out there. Hey, life is tough, and we all go through battles, but when you have someone there with you to guide you, and so a mentor, is very, very critical and very, very important.
It absolutely is. And I love it. I just love the fact that you're Christian and doing this because there's not a lot of us.
Well, thank you so much. I love you. I love to chat with you offline. Maybe get your husband on down the road and kind of share his story as well. And that's
He
continue
would love to.
to encourage others. Thank you so much, Nicole.
All right. Thank you.
God bless. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Our next song is by singer-songwriter Joel Gibson Jr. called The Gift.
Just got the news today that my life's gonna change. I got a little boy on the way. I'm a little scared, but I know it'll be okay. And I can't see you, but I know you're on the way, and I can't wait to see your smiling face and hold you in my arms and watch you while you sleep, and all the while knowing that you're the gift God gave me. Been the kind that asks for much. Just wanted to be a dad and have someone to love. And now I got all I'll ever need. I got your mom and I love you both eternally. And I can't see you, but I know you're on the way, and I can't wait to see your smiling face and hold you in my arms and watch you while you sleep, all the while knowing that you're the gift God gave me. I wish you'd just slow down. I know it won't be long before I watch you drive on out of town. But just like the image in your rear view, son, I'll always have you back. no matter what you go through, 'cause I wanna see you grow into a man one day, and I can't wait for you to have kids one day and hold them in your arms, watch them while they sleep, so you'll know the feeling that holding you gave me.
Song is by the Mighty One. It's called Kicking Stones. Get ready to crank it up a little bit. It's a good rocking song. Powerful, powerful message.
Smart enough to let it go, but I don't care 'cause I don't know how it feels on the inside. To the end, to this lover's dream, all is dead, silent screams, and you see it on the outside. In the bottle, piece of my mind going down, but I'm not the kind trying to get control. Who gives a damn? I am, no, I can't hide. Laughing, crying, suicide. Don't wanna face it on my own. No, no, not today. Down the road, kicking stones, kicking them all the way. Down the road, kicking stones, kicking them all the way. A rowboat sunrise on the lake, I could swear I felt it shake. I could use a little shaking right now. Say I'm a fool, you can kiss my past. I'm living now and I'm living fast. I am the legend in my mind. I am whatever man. Do what I do what I can. An easy little problem to have. I am, no, I can't hide. Laughing, crying, suicide. Don't wanna face it on my own. No, no, not today. Down the road, kicking stones, kicking them all the way. Down the road, kicking stones, kicking them all the way. Kicking them all the way. Down the road, kicking stones, kicking them all the way.
Our next song is a brand new song out by singer-songwriter Sassy Vezay. This is Good Girl. Thank you so much for joining today's conversation with Nicole, and I really just enjoyed her testimony, her story. Check out her book, The Path to Redemption Victorious. Also, thank you to my musicians who share their music, Showdown, Joel, Gibson Jr., The Mighty One, and Sassy Vezay here on Chit Chat, the encouraging One Note podcast. Please subscribe and follow to us on Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, where you find your podcast, and just share with family and friends. It's all about encouraging, sharing positivity, sharing great tunes for you and the world. Chit Chat, the encouraging One Note podcast, but it's always about encouraging others. See you next week.